very first live stream on this channel. How about that? If you are not familiar with me, my name is Julie. I normally live stream over on our main channel, the Frugal Family, but I've decided to start live streaming over here and doing some other stuff that I can't really do over there that doesn't really make sense over there. And here I have more wiggle room in what I can talk about. So first, apologies that the air intake is right here next to me. Sorry. Hi, Shatika. Thanks so much for being here. Yeah, the air intake is right here. And of course, the air conditioning is going on because it's summer here in Utah. So anyway, Pamela, hello. Thank you for being here. Anyhow, so yes, welcome to the inaugural My Current Obsession live stream. What I'm planning at the moment, I don't have everything sussed out yet. Hello, Bonnie. Thanks for being here. I don't have it all sussed out yet, but the plan I have right now is that Monday, hello, Melinda. Hi, Vicky. Monday is going to be Menopause Monday. Obviously, what I was opening this with is here I can do a lot different and plan to do a lot different content than at, the Frugal Family. And also I don't have to have the same parameters and stuff like that. So kind of excited for that. And I'm planning on that being Mondays. Another thing I need to do though is like hook up my like lapel mic or something to the phone because of the air intake right here. It's loud. I apologize. Nothing I can do about it whilst we are doing while we're doing stuff down here. It just, yeah, it's summer and it's Utah, and so it is what it is. But anyway, yeah, that's the plan so far, is that Mondays. I'm not sure. I haven't like completely settled on a time yet, but definitely Mondays for menopause just because of the alliteration. Hi, Phyllis. So, but the topic, yes, it is going to be menopause on Mondays, but not like, doesn't have to just be menopause, but that's like the main thing that I want to talk about. So I wouldn't want to come on here and talk about, for instance, dumpster diving, because that's not what I'm doing here. You know what I mean? Hi, Liz. And I think that's like a big part of the plan and the goal here. Hi, Renee, is to differentiate between here and the Frugal Family. And that's why I'm talking about menopause, because that's like a very clear delineation, between here and dumpster diving, I would hope. Hello, Hunter 101. Thank you for being here. So, all right. So as you could see on the, God, excuse me, the title, we're talking about menopause and my house ghost. And menopause, I actually don't want to talk like a whole heck of a lot about that today, but I just want to introduce it because it going forward is going to be the main topic on Mondays. But then I also want to clarify, this is all still like early days, okay, that I'm kind of figuring this out. First it was, will anyone even show up for, Menopause Mondays? And here you guys are. So thank you so much. But, we'll work out all the little bells and whistles and kinks and kinks. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll work all that out kind of as we go along and suss it out here. But when I say menopause, I mean, obviously, I think that could include conditions leading up to menopause and following menopause. You know what I mean? If you don't know, I went through forced menopause about 2 years ago. Yeah, everything's gone. There is nothing at all left. My sister-in-law was telling me that medically, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Renee. So things leading up to menopause and then after. So women's health. There you go. Anyway, God, what was I saying? Oh, so my sister-in-law was telling me that, like, her doctor or someone, I think it was her doctor, had told her that she had a hysterectomy, when to me it was a partial hysterectomy because she still had ovaries. And when my first adventure was a partial hysterectomy where they took the uterus, the cervix, stuff like that. But yeah, that to me, tell me if I'm like weird here, but that's partial hysterectomy. Whereas what I went through 2 years ago was complete hysterectomy. Like, that's another thing. I'm gonna have to work on the lighting. There's nothing left. There's nothing at all. Not nothing at all. But the way she made it sound is that like kind of the nomenclature has, the lingo maybe has changed, classification might have changed because she was told she had a hysterectomy. I consider that a partial. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on that. Anyway, so the ghost. I'm actually going to link it to menopause just so that I set a precedent and then kind of, follow through. So, all right. So Jenny, my house ghost, she didn't get to go through menopause. She might have been in like perimenopause. Phyllis, Kitty is outside. Yeah, it's a gorgeous day outside and she's out there having fun. The only reason actually that I didn't live stream outside was, one, I want to get used to live streaming down here and start kind of setting that, you know what I mean? And then also it might rain. So anyway, I have lights here and they're going to be so pretty, but I need another extension cord and then those will be plugged in. So I promise we'll have that for next time. Yes, that's what I was just saying, Rhonda. This is the inaugural live stream here. Oh, you're right. You are so right. Okay. So for starters, I'm going to put us onto subscribers only. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. And then hopefully a few of you don't mind that I'm putting you in as moderators, especially if you're some of the ones that are already regular mods for me. Hopefully you don't mind. If you do, just say so and I will remove your moderator status. Okay. Oh yeah, no, Rhonda, you're so correct. But we're also going to have the subscribers only, which I think will help a little bit, but you just might have to remind me a few times. So thank you. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? Oh, Kitty. So yeah, she's outside and I want to get used to doing my thing down here. The lighting right now, absolutely atrocious. I apologize, but I got caught up in something else and didn't get around to sussing all that out. But I think actually next week or sometime midweek. Yeah, let's do it midweek-ish. Sometime between today and next Monday, maybe we will meet up together here again and figure the lighting out together. I think that'd be fun. But definitely I will get an extension cord run to these guys, which will add so much to it that I think is going to be so fun. And then, oh, thank you, Renee. I appreciate that. I just want to have it as good as possible. Oh, that was the other thing I was saying. I need to either hook up my lapel mic or my Yeti mic or something because of the air intake. Yeah. So we're going to work on those things. It's going to happen. Excuse me. But this is definitely where I want to do this. And like I was saying, I want to differentiate it. I understand that our largest audience is over on the Frugal Family and that a lot of our initial audience here is coming from there and will come from there. And that's awesome. That's fantastic. But of course, I would also like to expand this because it's something I've been wanting to do for how long? Years? and I'm just like now finally committing to it. Look at me. Oh, how about that, you guys? Me that's squirreling all over the place all the time. I actually committed to something and then I'm following through. I have another funny idea. I'm going to, like, this one is more like political, so it's not really like 100% appropriate for what I'm going for. That's why I have my hair down. I don't mind wearing a political shirt. I have no problem with that. But that's not what I'm going for. Like, can I talk politics on here? Yeah, definitely. And way more freely than on the Frugal Family, but that's not the point. What I want is to wear pink shirts. That's something I watch a guy named Ryan Trahan, and he is absolutely amazing. I adore him. And him and his beautiful wife are doing this 50 states in 50 days madness road trip thing, raising money for St. Jude Children's Hospital. And anyway, it's been amazing. Highly recommend it if you're not already watching it. But I watched a video where someone was analyzing this video series that he's doing this summer. And one thing that they're doing is wearing the same outfit every day. So they bought like 8 or 10 copies of an outfit and they're wearing that every day. Like, obviously they're washing them, but it's a bit of a uniform, and it's in the same vein as like your favorite cartoon characters. Bart and Lisa are still wearing the same exact clothes as they were when I was in like second grade and The Simpsons first came on. You know what I mean? And so there's like recognition there, and it builds trust, and it builds like, I don't know, trust. That's a big one. Recognizability, stuff like that. So what I want to do, and of course, I'll bring you along in one way or another as I acquire pink shirts, but that's what I'm going to do. I want to have pink shirts for Menopause Mondays. That's what I want to do. Did you know that pink actually, not even 100 years ago, was a boy color? It was a boy color. Excuse me. And back to Utah, back to allergies. I had no allergy struggles, none, in Washington or Oregon. I'm allergic to Utah. No, Renee, I have been not like, I've been completely off of like the news and anything like that. I've been watching silly stuff and kind of random stuff, but nothing like that. No, I'll have to look into that. Oh, Liz, I love little squirrels. Fantastic. So, okay. Yeah. So the plan is pink shirts, have this lit up behind me, have my rainbow, of course. And that'll be more sparkly, and you know me and sparkles and shiny things. It'll be more sparkly and shiny with these fairy lights. And then we'll set up the other lights, get that set up together, suss that out together. And kind of the way I see it is, yeah, everything leading up to menopause, then the menopause experience, whether natural or like me, forced menopause, and then thereafter. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fun. And oh, Renee, that's fantastic. You know, those are my thing. They are. And that's Mondays. Okay. And I haven't decided yet, like, because I don't want to only live stream on Monday. I'm not saying that I'm just becoming a streamer, but that is one of my main goals on this channel is streaming. But what would I stream? Is it just talking? Is it story times? Is it current events? Is it commentary? I don't know yet. I don't know. Still working on it. I'm just like, right now, let's just acknowledge that I actually am here and doing it. Finally. I'm feeling really proud of that. Sorry. Got to toot my own little horn there because I'm really proud of following through with it. Anyhow, okay, so tying in Jenny, my house ghost, with menopause. I don't know that Jenny ever got to go through menopause. Likely perimenopause, because she died at 43 years of age in this house. So maybe like perimenopause, but her youngest child when she died was 9 months old. So she was obviously still fertile. And she died of a ruptured gallbladder. And I think I've gone through, like, I'm probably going to do an edited video. I think it would just make more sense and be a lot more cohesive. But I have a lot of connections with Jenny. And she is a woman who lived in this house. She wouldn't have been down here because down here didn't exist. There was like a root cellar that would have been that way, but all of this was just under the ground. Like, yeah. So she had, I believe it was 11 kids. And like I said, when she died, the youngest was only 9 months old. And she had it just the upstairs and not even a bathroom. Like, up until her death, there was no indoor bathroom. Crazy, huh? So she has been a lot on my mind lately, and she had been anyway, and I had started kind of feeling her presence again, only not as scary this time. Like, I'm not scared of her, but around a year ago, when I was kind of feeling it was creepy. It was unsettling, and it didn't feel pleasant. And I spoke to my mom about it, and we kind of talked it out and spoke to Jenny and did a smudging and, you know, all of those kind of things. Hold on. Okay. And then I felt like things eased up and it, you know, whatever. But recently I had been kind of feeling that again, feeling something, I don't know. And then this is so weird. Her grandson, all of her kids are dead. Her grandson ended up here. So I've met some of her family before, and we've formed, you know, some connections, whatever. And it's been really neat. And you guys know that that's why this channel is what it is, my current obsession. Sorry, I was eating something. When I like get into something and go down the proverbial rabbit hole, like I get obsessed and I go through different things, and then sometimes I'll come back around to a thing. And anyway, I was obsessed, and I still have a love and a connection with her, but I feel like in my obsessive research, I was able to find out everything that I felt like I needed to know about her. But perhaps her family hadn't known everything that they needed to know. And I wonder if that was why she came to visit me again. Because I was expecting my sister-in-law, and I saw a car driving by, and I knew my sister-in-law had gotten a new car, but I didn't know what it was. So I go and open the front door, and I had something with me, the broom or some plants I think I had some plants that I was harvesting. I don't know. Anyhow, I saw a car slowly go by, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's probably so-and-so, my sister-in-law, and she's probably going to flip around and come back. Well, the car did flip around and come slowly back and pulled into the driveway. And I'm like looking, and I come down to the steps of the porch, and I'm looking, expecting my sister-in-law, because I couldn't see because it had, you know, some tinting. And then this older, tall white man gets out of the car, and I'm like, oh, what the? And yet, there was some recognition immediately. Like, I knew it was someone I knew, but didn't know how I knew them. And I was like, hi there, you know, and he was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but, you know, I came here with my sister, and I was like, oh, your grandma was Jenny. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, come on in. And they're always so surprised that I'm me. because I love to have them come in and hang out and talk about their family and this house and stuff like that. But anyway, so Bonnie, this was dug out 20 to 25 years ago. It actually, I hate to, I mean, it's not my business, but it actually bankrupted, unfortunately, the people who did it. We didn't buy it in foreclosure. It had already been purchased by somebody else. But yeah, digging this out apparently was quite a to-do. So, Phyllis, that's awesome. Yum, 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 yum. So, yeah, Rhonda, yeah, they had just happened to stop by the first time I met them. I had been out in the yard with James, and we had been packing to go camping. That was several years ago. This family of Jenny. So, anyhow, he comes in and sits down, and we have a lovely time talking. And I felt impressed to tell him the most recent things that I had learned, or that I had confirmed, about Jenny. And I asked him first, I said, these are things that might make you uncomfortable. I gave a good disclaimer and all of that, but he did want to know. And what it came down to was many moons ago, I believe it was last year, some of you might remember that I went to this like pioneer kind of park and met an elderly gentleman who actually grew up in the house next door and had been in this house a million times growing up playing with Jenny's kids. And I had a beautiful conversation with him and really would love to talk to him again. I gave his info to this grandson so that they could get in touch with him, and told him he's old. He's up there. If you're going to talk to him, it'd be sooner than later, you know. But anyway, I had some things, there was some insights, and then also I had some things confirmed about the struggle that it truly was in this house with so many children. The struggle as a mother and a wife. I'm trying to be judicious in how much I share. It's a really tricky thing. It's really tricky because I am familiar with the family and have built this little relationship with them. And it makes it tricky because there's so much I want to tell. And it shouldn't be a problem because these folks have passed on. But one feels the need to exercise discretion out of respect for those who still live. Does that make sense? You know, some of it was difficult for this grandson to hear. He knew they were poor. He knew that. And they were poor. Okay. But there were things he didn't know. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to be judicious in how I explain this. And I'm not going to go into like loads of detail. I think that would be the respectful thing to do. And I also, when I was explaining all of this to him, I admitted how after my dad, rest in peace, who I still love and honor and cherish, that sounds like a wedding vow. Sorry. Anyway, that I found out things about him after he had passed that were unsettling, upsetting, shocking, all of those things. But it never changed my love for him. It never changed the fact that he was a good man. It just expanded the picture, gave me more perspective and more to work with. And I really tried to express that to this grandson so that in finding out some difficult things about his grandparents, that it was an attempt to not tarnish the memory, but to give insight and to give humanity to these people that had passed on. Our ancestors are not perfect. I really detest the idea that you don't speak ill of the dead. Now, do you bring out allegations and horrific things when they can't fight back? It gets tricky there. It does get tricky. But if there's absolute proof that these things did happen, yeah, bring it out. Tarnish the memory. But if they are things where there is no proof at all, no witness, no nothing, and they can't fight back against these allegations, then I would say no, don't do that. But I 100% do not support the idea that you just don't speak ill of the dead. No, absolutely not. They were not perfect. They were people, real life people, not just pictures, not just names, but real actual people who had our blood and who contributed to who we are today. And so in removing that perfection, those rose-colored glasses, I think it gives a dignity to their lived experience, but also to ours, and gives us a lot of permission, not to go and be crazy and do wacky stuff, but to understand why we are who we are, and permission to not feel like, oh, well, I got to make my ancestors proud. Well, I can guarantee you they did a lot of things that you wouldn't be proud of. I guarantee it. Even your most beloved ancestors had skeletons in the closet. Did that make them bad people? Nope. I mean, some of them, for sure. Some of them. But no, having these little idiosyncrasies, having secrets, having behaviors, having these issues does not inherently make them bad people. And I don't think that it benefits anyone to suppress all that and only talk about the good stuff about people. And I think it puts an undue pressure on those living. So anyway, all of that to say, I had learned some stuff more about Jenny's life and the difficulties. And it actually ended up being, though difficult and upsetting, incredibly enlightening to her grandson, that I ended up spending at least an hour. At least an hour we spoke on the couch upstairs. So things that I had read between the lines, if you will, and assumptions I had, some based on stories and histories, others based on demographics, and anyway, with a lot of things, I did some deductive reasoning, critical thinking, and I deduced that it was highly likely that there could have been alcohol abuse in the house and domestic violence. And this lovely elderly gentleman that had grown up next door and had been in this house regularly playing with the kids confirmed those things for me. And it was really difficult. Hi, Judy. Thanks for being here. You might want to rewind or you're not going to know what the hell we're talking about. It was really difficult finding out those things because I had already known that Jenny had a very difficult life from start to finish. It was hard. It was finding out, having my suspicions confirmed that not only did she have a million kids and she was poor and all of this, but to also know that she was a victim. It was heartbreaking. It truly was. But an interesting thing happened. After I had that conversation with the elderly gentleman who had lived next door and had all those suspicions confirmed, I felt her spirit, her presence vacate. It was gone. So I thought that was interesting. Well, so like I said, I had been feeling kind of her return. I had been feeling the unsettling feelings, not scary, but unsettling, where like when you feel someone watching you, you know what I mean? You know someone's watching you. It's that feeling. Okay? And it might not always be scary because you might be in the mall and there might actually be people there. I don't know. Some people are going back to malls. Yeah, there's a good chance someone might be watching you, but not necessarily watching you, but just like looking in your direction. Okay? And you can feel those eyes. Yeah, that's not always an unsettling thing. It depends on the situation, whatever, right? Well, this was similar to feeling someone watching me, but with just a little bit of rumbly tumbly in my tummy. Okay. And I was like, she's back. What the hell does she want this time? I was like, oh, I thought we had sussed it all out. I had found out the rest of your story to the extent that it needed to be found out. You've been heard, you've been seen, kind of a thing. And I thought, okay, we're at peace now. No, obviously not. Because then a couple of days, well, not even a week later, was when her grandson showed up. Coincidence? I think not. So anyhow, I think for whatever reason, she wanted her family to know what she had been through beyond what they already knew. That's my guess. Because after speaking with him, guess what? It went away. Now I still feel her, kind of, hanging around a little bit of like that energy, but not the like, hey, Julie, hey, hello, remember me? Let's talk. You know what I mean? So, and not the, ooh, I'm watching you. So anyway, in laying all this on the grandson, I again apologized that it could be upsetting and whatever. And I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, well, it hurt to hear, but it actually makes some things make sense. And so I was intrigued, of course. I'm like, okay, you can share or don't. That's up to you. And so I don't want to, because he entrusted me with some of the knowledge, I don't want to divulge too much. You know what I mean? But I do think there are some important connections here, which also furthers my opinion that we should not, and it does not behoove us to look at our ancestors as just these perfect people that we can never speak ill about. Okay. It helped him to understand some things because his grandfather had ended up in a home. Now, plenty of people end up in homes in their elder years. Of course they do. Duh. But he had had mental health struggles. And so the assumption is that there was an underlying mental health situation, which when combined with alcohol consumption and abuse, alcohol abuse can lead to other, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And so you could see in his eyes, you could see kind of the light go on, things adding up. and that was really neat to see. That he was making those connections about how things went down after Jenny died. I had assumptions that her husband stayed here and had his elder children and at least one of their spouses here taking care of him. Well, that was only for a short time. I didn't know that. And I think, oh, it's just hitting me now. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. Oh, that's weird. Okay, that's weird. I just made my own connection. I think she loved him. She married him. It was a shotgun wedding. Okay. She was like 15 years old. Yeah. Coming from an already very difficult home life. But I think in spite of the struggles and whatever, I think she wants me to know that she did have love for him. She maybe didn't want to be with him anymore, but she did have love for him. And the feeling I'm getting right now is that yes, she wanted her grandson and therefore family maybe to know more about her life, but also maybe it was also for me to assuage some of my assumptions and conclusions about her husband. Because I will admit, I was not charitable at all. Not at all. Toward him and his memory. I had the meanest, horrible thoughts about him. You know, my thought was, you keep getting this woman pregnant, you can't support any of them, what are you doing? And then to find out that he didn't treat her nice. I had really bad feelings about him. And I still don't like him. But what I'm getting right now, and what I'm kind of putting together, is starting to make me think that maybe she's helping me, and these experiences are helping me judge him a little less harshly, which I think actually could be really helpful in how I respond to other people in my life, you know. I am one that is quick to judge. I try not to be, but anyway, it's the human condition. But anyhow, because what her grandson had explained to me was that even though, yes, he had, the husband had lived here with some of his older children and at least one of their spouses for some period of time, it wasn't very long, because he ended up in a facility for mental health, which in those days, that's kind of terrifying. Really terrifying, actually, and really sad. So sad. So incredibly tragic, because that would have been something, you know, an asylum, what have you. And then, of course, all of the children were split up. There were 10 living kids. No one's going to take on 10 kids. And so they were split to the four winds, sent to different ancestors, different relatives across the country. I don't know. Now we have another mystery. I don't know, and don't know that I dare ask, how involved he was from then on in raising the rest of the kids. Because like I said, when Jenny died, their youngest was 9 months old. I don't know how involved he was, because so he was in a facility and then moved to like a ranch in, I believe it was Wyoming, with some kind of members of family, I don't know, and then eventually ended up in a nursing home in older age. But jeez. Okay, maybe that was what it was about. Yeah, maybe it was to end the cycle, make sure that the cycle of violence had stopped. I think that's important, Pamela, for sure. Bonnie, I'd love to think that she's part of keeping us safe. I will need to double check. Have to remind myself when her death and all of that was. because I'm not in that obsession place anymore. And so I don't know. I cannot recall all the facts right now. Vicky, that's terrifying. I hope you're getting treatment for that. I have my own sleep paralysis story. I'll tell that sometime. Maybe that'll be another subject for another night because, yeah, that's some interesting stuff, scary stuff. Maybe that's what it is, was an opportunity for me to have, well, to be enlightened, to get some perspective. And to not give him some slack necessarily, because as their son or grandson and I definitely agreed, one does not excuse the other. You know, having a mental health struggle, abusing substances does not alleviate the guilt of bad behavior, okay? But it brings understanding, or at least context. And it also makes people more human, having those details, and allows me to humble myself, for one thing, and to help me into a place where I can exercise some charity in my view of him. I'm the kind that my family mostly knows not to not tell me stuff, but that if they do, that someone has hurt them, upset them, what have you, I struggle to handle it well. My first immediate reaction, okay, if I've heard that someone upset or hurt or wronged someone that I love, family, friends, whatever, that's my go-to immediate response. I'm an Aries. What do you want? And so with Jenny, where I've come to know her and to love her so much, that's definitely, yeah, exactly, Renee, exactly. I was angry for her. I was so angry. And especially because I had experienced, and this was part of our connection, I had experienced some of the things that she had, not having 11 kids and, you know, all those other things, but physical conditions and struggles. I had my gallbladder removed some years ago. She died from gallbladder disease. Unfortunately, hers burst. I know what kind of pain that is, and it is horrific. I would not wish that on anyone. Not ever, ever, ever. And here is a woman feeling that pain and going through that digestive discomfort and struggle with no indoor bathroom, with 80, 100 kids, with a husband with some serious struggles, and she ended up bedbound for months. Months. Which also then, which I've never thought about this before. That's why I love you guys. That's why a big part of why I wanted to have this channel for live streaming and having less of the parameters and restrictions of our main channel, because you guys are such a good sounding board. And here I can talk to you about all the other stuff, you know? But anyway, what I had never thought of, and it just now, another click, what that must have been like for the older siblings. You know? while she was bedbound, because I know how hard it was, and every medical situation I've had and disasters I've had and how many surgeries I've had and how hard that's been for my family. But to be completely bedbound when there's all these 80, 100 kids, how much that must have put onto the older children. And for that time, probably the older daughters. Let's be real, okay? I never thought about them. I don't know much about them. I just never thought. Well, Renee, yeah, back in the pioneer days and the frontier days, certainly. This was in the 40s, if I remember correctly. I believe it was like 1943 or something like that. So it was much, much better than, say, Dr. Quinn times. Certainly not as good as it is now, of course. Like, we've had major advances, but it definitely, there were treatments that could have been done. I think I've talked about this before at one point, but it bears bringing up. She had gone to the doctor previously about having surgery for her gallbladder, but they had told her that she needed to lose weight first. I've shown pictures. I'll show more pictures at some point, but there's like she should have had that surgery. She was not obese. She was not, no. Yeah. So very frustrating. They could have saved her. They could have. Especially when it very initially happened. But anyway, that's other stuff that maybe we'll talk about another time, because it's a little much. Just the way that she died and how she chose to go about certain things during that time was tricky. Yeah. Yeah, Renee. Yeah. Can you even? That's a thing that's been going on forever and will probably continue forever. Yeah. Wild stuff. But, yeah. Being women and getting health care is a tricky thing. I think we know that, right? Doesn't seem to be improving anytime soon. Anyway, that was a really interesting little journey that we just got to go on together. I really appreciate you all being here with me. Yeah, I agree, Renee. Absolutely. Got some people. But this has been a really good journey. Like I said, because of how much I've cared about this woman, yeah, I went to thoughts of anger and rage and, yeah, toward her husband. And this conversation that I had with their grandson and then talking it out with you guys has definitely given me more perspective that I needed. Certainly. Yeah. Oh my God, Bonnie, he must have been suffering. And that happens so often. Things like that. You would hope, you would hope that over the years, stuff like that would happen less and less, but I still hear about situations like that all the time. All the time. Anyway, yeah. Yeah. So we've got 10 more minutes. So I want to kind of segue back to menopause Well, for one, because it's Menopause Monday, but also because I want your help. I want to write a list, get my little notepad here. Lord. One of our frugal friends sent this to me years ago. So cute. Anyway, I want to brainstorm a couple of ideas that we can discuss on here on Menopause Mondays. No, Renee, I still have not figured that out. No, and that sucks because I need to have it for next time, because we're going to be reading some articles. We're going to be reacting to some things, responding to some things, commenting on some things, and I'm going to need to be able to show you what I'm like looking at on the computer. So I'm still working on figuring it out. But I want to have like some more specific subtopics of hold on, of what do you call it, menopause. I swear the phone carrier is trying to force me into getting a new phone, and it's been proven that phone carriers will do this. But like now, no matter what cord I use, what charging brick, what outlet, it takes like 80 hours. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but takes forever to charge my damn phone. So frustrating. So I have you plugged in right now because otherwise anyway. That's really interesting, Pamela. No, that's actually helpful because there are situations like that. That can happen. So I'm going to say menopause without symptoms, because it'd be interesting to look into kind of how often that happens. Is it more likely under certain conditions, more prevalent in certain areas? And so if there aren't those like classic symptoms, then what is there besides like cessation of menstruation? That's a fun one. Try to say that 10 times fast. But like, what other changes happen? What other whatever? There's actually a lot there. There is. So you were actually, Pamela, you were actually really helpful. Yeah, I'm writing all that down. Something that I can't really speak to, but I want to talk about, and I think, like, as a community, that would be, like, I would need help. But I think plenty of women would be able to bring stuff, to the table. And that's perimenopause, because I didn't experience that. I will never experience that. We just jumped in, and so that'll be interesting. Melinda, I would love to know what you're talking about. I know things can get kind of for men, but I'd love to know what else you're talking about. Oh my Lord, Vicky. Oh my God. Jeez, that is quite an experience. See, and that's other stuff that we can talk about. Interesting, Renee. Yeah, Melinda. Actually, on here, okay, so I don't have to censor myself nearly as much as on the Frugal Family, but I do still want to be monetized. So we itchy ears, interesting. Stress coughing and leaking. Yeah, that's the other thing. I remember joking a lot when I was younger and like had such horrific periods that it was awful. Oh, it was so awful. And I remember thinking, if I can just make it to 55 or whatever, and then it'll all be gone. No, it is not all of a sudden sunshine, rainbows, violins, and no. Now, for some, like Pamela, not that bad as far as those, like the hot flashes, whatever. But for what I would assume, maybe not assume, but actually I would say that, and wouldn't feel totally incorrect in saying that for the majority of women, it's not the pleasantest thing ever. It's not the most fun thing. It's not the theme park. It's not the county fair. It's actually unpleasant. Sometimes miserable. Sometimes unpleasant. Sometimes not a huge deal. Sometimes absolutely debilitating. So, yeah, I want to talk about it. Okay, Melinda, I'll look into that. Let me write that down. Yeah, I'll look into that. Huh, interesting, Renee. Bonnie, I love it. I love it. Yeah, so it's a spectrum of symptoms and experiences. Menopause is. And I don't know why, but for some reason, there still seems to be not necessarily a taboo on talking about it, but where it used to be with having your menstrual cycle, with having a period, you weren't really supposed to talk about it. In fact, there were times when some cultures and religions still practice this, but mainstream Western culture also saw you as kind of not necessarily unclean, but like that was a time you kind of put yourself away kind of a thing. And it wasn't something you talked about or in fact, lots of girls didn't even know what was happening to them until it was, anyway. And now, it's so much more of an open topic and, people can talk all about it and be crazy and everything. I think menopause is still kind of in that place that having a period was in, 40, 50 years ago. You know what I mean? Maybe not quite to that extent, but it's still, yeah. Well, and for sure, I don't myself, definitely, I don't feel like we get like educated about it. For instance, there was like the maturation program, when you're like 5th, 6th grade, where you get sex education and learn about the magical things that are going to happen to your body and all of that. But they don't do that for menopause. They don't do that. There's not a class, and maybe there should be, but there isn't a class where they say, okay, ladies, come and sit down, everyone, let's have some coffee, which, there would have to be some coffee, and a delicious slice of coffee cake, and let's talk about the madness that's about to start happening in your body for the next 15 years. You thought that you were going to get away with it and that, you were going to hit menopause and it was going to be this thing. You were going to walk through the door and it was just boom, done. No, that's not what it is at all. Now, for me, yes, it was forced menopause, so it was immediate. But even so, I've learned a lot since having gone through this, that it also doesn't just stop everything. And we'll talk more about that on another Monday. But also just regular natural menopause. No, you don't just walk through a door and it's done. Like how you wake up one morning or you're sitting in school and all of a sudden you're bleeding all over the place when your period starts. No, it's a progression, a marathon, not a sprint. And you go through the perimenopause and that can last up to 15 years until you finally, it stops. Crazy, huh? And they don't teach you, like, nobody teaches you that. Maybe your mom, maybe your grandma, depending on if you still have them and if they're willing to talk about it. Yeah. It would really be nice, though. It really would, if we had like some classes like that. Sit down, have some coffee, really comfortable seats, really comfortable, and then just talk it out, learn about it. This is what's coming, ladies. Here it is, and have some, wise, more seasoned ladies that could share their experiences and stuff like that. But we don't have that. And I am not arrogant enough to say that this little Monday menopause live stream stuff that I'm, starting right here, right now, is going to be that in any way, shape, or form. But the goal is there to spread more of that knowledge and awareness and give some info out there so that women can know what to expect and not just get thrown in, and not only know based on like ads, commercials for medications, they'll or jokes or things in comedy routines. Like, have some, real time experiences shared, questions asked and answered, and stuff like that is, hi sweetie, is what I'm going for here. Yeah. On Mondays anyway. Yeah. Interesting, Melinda. She had a hysterectomy, complete hysterectomy in her early 30s, no symptoms, but now at 58, she's got it all. I am so intrigued. Melinda. I hope that you can join us next week, same time, same place, so that we can talk about that, because oh my God. Yeah, I know, Bonnie, right? It's been really neat to see that a lot more places are doing free sanitary products in restrooms. That's been a really neat thing to see. It's not universal, it's not everywhere, but I have been seeing that a lot more, which is really cool. Anyway, okay, that is all the time I have for tonight. Thank you so much for being part of our inaugural live stream here on my current obsession, and day 1, episode 1, show number 1, whatever, of Menopause Mondays. I'm excited. I'm going to get some pink shirts. I'll let you know how that goes. Might even bring you along for part of that. I don't know. We'll see. But you're wonderful. We did this. We did. We did. Feels good. Just feels really good. Anyway, okay. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you all real soon. Okay? Okay. Bye.